Hey, Wanderers.
So, we're here to introduce a new series that we're going to do called PCSing.
Welcome to episode 3 of our PCS series. If you've not watched the previous videos, please click the link above so you can catch up.
Alright, so last question. Because we know that we are vulnerable for an assignment this coming summer. Actually, we're more than that. Where are we in the process right now?
Right. So, we will go back. I think we're going to expand on all of these. I want to tell stories about the things that we have seen and done throughout our life in the military, and specifically talking about more about the moving process up to now. And that just begins with you being on station for a certain period of time. For us, that's around 2 years. When you're coming up on your second year, you find out whether you're going to be on the VML or not.
Vulnerable to move list.
Vulnerable to move list, which is a super easy thing to say. I'm just saying. So it's easier to call it the VML. So you find out if you're on the VML or not. We were on the VML that came out this year. So what that said to us was, when they're going through making assignments, they could pick us. We're potentially on the list to move. Then you go into another waiting time where you say, we might be moving next year, we might not. You know you still have a year left here. And so you're just waiting. Well, we're at the stage now where it is confirmed that they want to place us somewhere. They have given Ron a special vector. Is that the right terms?
Yep.
Meaning that he is eligible for a special duty assignment for our next assignment. So they even this time, we've never known about this before, and they've changed it up a little bit this year, but this time we were actually able to go in and see what jobs are going to be available next year for his sorry, we saw our friend. What jobs are going to be available for his code, his chapel code.
Do you want me to try to explain it?
No.
Okay.
I am fine. This time we were able to see what was going to be available for him for the job that he wants to do. And then we could actually go in and rank those jobs that we wanted to have and that we wanted to go to. So
that system, there's always been a system for that, but they've gone to a new system that has much more visibility. So we're able to see and have more information.
And we don't know if that's going to make a difference or not, but at least we could see what assignments were available. And it was fun for me and my planning self to just be like, oh, what could we possibly do and where could we go? And it was a lot of fun for me and Ron and the kids to look through the list, and everything was cool. And we made our list, and they gave us a date that it had to be finalized, and we finalized it.
And we wait.
And now we're just waiting. And that's where we are.
Waiting on an email.
We're waiting on an email. And every day when Ron leaves to go to work, I say, have a good day, and get an email.
Because I can control that, y'all.
And he has not gotten an email. So that's where we are. We're in the waiting stage. And I want to know how that feels for you, because I know how it feels for me. So you go first. How are you feeling about where we are in the process?
I just want to know. It's hard because, especially in this one, we know that some sort of assignment is coming. So it's very challenging to walk that line of staying fully engaged here, fully, in the job, in ministry here, but also know that there are possibilities out there swimming, and that tension will maintain. But once there's a place to focus on, and all right, this is what I need to be prepping for, gives me something to focus. But I just kind of feel like I'm floating out there, just with who knows? It could be this, it could be that, it could be at this time, it could be at that time, and so I feel untethered,
right,
as it relates to this. And so, just even hey, here's the notification, here's the where and the when. Because then it gives me a timeline, and for me that is absolutely essential for me is to have targets, with timelines and things like that so that I can work towards. Because right now I just feel like I'm floating out untethered.
So as we get closer, we're going to talk about that weird balance in between trying to stay engaged here and trying to look forward to what is to come. And we're going to talk about that as we get a little closer, and especially once we find out where we're going. But the way I feel about it right now is that I think absolutely nothing about it, probably 75% of my day. And honestly, it's when Ron calls me or I see him that it like triggers that in my brain. Oh yeah, he is going to be providing you with information when he gets it. And so it's like, for the most part, I don't think about it that often. And then every once in a while I'm like, oh, when we move, because there's a lot of stuff. Like right now we're coming into the holiday season and we're like, this is going to be our last Christmas here. And this is our last New Year's here. And I also have, this is kind of an isolated place as far as like conferences and concerts and stuff like that. There are some people that come here to do concerts, but not very many. And so I want to plan for those things. Like I want to plan to go to some conferences next year. I want to plan to go to some concerts next year and different speaking engagements. And those things are already on the schedules, and people are already buying tickets for them. Well, I don't know if we want to go to something that is in New Mexico. That was just random. But from up here, we wouldn't do that. But if we were stationed right next to New Mexico, maybe we would go over and do that. So it's just difficult for me because I like to look at what's coming up and to plan the stuff that's coming up and the stuff that might not be available spur of the moment. And we can't do any of that right now because of the limbo that we're in. So I think that is my biggest thing right now, is that we have our family summit coming up next week, and we can't plan 6 months in advance like we usually do because we don't know where we're going. And if they do not tell us in just a couple of days, then we know we're not going to find out until well after in January. We won't find out until January. And in the past, that's what I keep thinking about, is like when we were in Maryland and we found out we were going to Spain right before Christmas, we weren't worried about it, right? Well, we were like, they'll tell us sometime. We're going to get our assignment sometime. And then they let us know like the second week in January or something like that. The beginning of January-ish is when we found out. And so...
Yeah, I was trying to think of when, we knew we were leaving Spain, but when do we find out the where? When did we find out the where from going from Maryland to Spain? I don't remember
right.
that.
I don't remember those. Well, Maryland to Spain I do know because it was in January and my uncle had just passed away and I was down at his funeral.
And I was trying to
and
think
you
about
called
that.
me.
Why were you guys in Arkansas?
Yeah, and you called me and told me that we were going to Spain. So I distinctly remember that, and I know when we found out because it was January. But
okay.
And then I remember that there was some kind of party happening in Spain, and we left the party and went to the chapel instead of going home because you had gotten notification of an email. Do you remember that?
I remember going to the office for the notification. I don't remember the circumstances.
So that's why I think we found out at Christmas time the last time. Because I think we were at some kind of party and we left the party and we went. So, who knows? We don't know exactly. But it just means that the anticipation this year for me is worse. Because we know that they're looking at us. We know that he has been vectored for a special assignment.
Well, I think like with Spain and less so with Turkey, we knew the when. We didn't know the where, but we knew we were going somewhere. So at least we had one anchor point of this is when we'll be leaving, and we can back everything up from that.
Oh, is that what's that? The when is not bothering me at all.
Well, it's not bothering me, but in the past I've had one of the two variables.
Talked about timeline.
Well, yeah, but in the past it hasn't been a variable. It's been a fairly known
Yeah,
quantity.
so because what I said earlier was that we told them that we homeschool, and so we're willing to move outside of the normal cycle, so we don't have to be there in June. June is generally the really big turnover time, and because we're telling them that we don't have to be there then, we can come earlier, so they could have us be there as early as April, and that's just kind of soon, and we would really like to know, especially if they want us there that soon, because this time we have a house to sell.
Yeah.
Okay, we will see you on our next episode of
Bye,
Military Moments, and hopefully they will not all be 6 minutes long, all the answers. Let us know your questions. Leave them down below. Bye, Wanderers.